Well, good morning, everybody. It's the morning after my railroad trip. I'm refilming the introduction because I did some things I hadn't planned on doing, spur of the moment, and so wanted to use my 1909 railroad map of Ohio to illustrate what I did so you can sort of follow along. So this is Cincinnati. I live about an hour south of Cincinnati in Georgetown, Kentucky. So I drove to Cincinnati and I started following the old B&O line, which is this blue line across here. It says B&O Southwestern on here, Baltimore and Ohio Southwestern. So the first place I went was the junction at, where I'm at here, Midland City. Show you the depot there. This branch is no longer there. This was the Hillsboro branch of B&O. It's been gone since the 60s. So I filmed the depot at Midland City, talked a little bit about that. I kept driving. This is Route 28 in Ohio, if you ever want to do it. Visited the depot in Leesburg. This has an H on it, but Leesburg now left the H off. And the depot there, showed you that. Went on to Greenfield, and I'll show you two depots in Greenfield. Better move the camera, though. Okay. Come up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So we went to Greenfield. Two depots in Greenfield. At that point, I went on to Chillicothe, and I filmed took some footage of the yard office that I'm going to model. Okay. After that, I drove to Jackson, visited the Dtni Depot and the C&O Freight Depot and the Dtni car shops. So show you that. After Jackson, I spent a little bit of time looking for the old steel mill site, but I could find it, but I couldn't get to it. I was hoping to sort of poke around there. This blue line is again B&O, so I followed it down to Oak Hill, which was the primary purpose of my trip, going to Oak Hill. So I shot a lot of footage there, talked about the buildings I'm going to be modeling, showed you those a little bit more detail. After Oak Hill, I drove down the old CH&D line, which is hard to see here, it's sort of yellow. They used to have a line that ran to Ironton, and actually the last part of it was the DT&I sort of shared it. They shared tunnel number 4. It was all abandoned in 1916. So, but you see on here it says tunnel number 1. I visited the ruins of tunnel number 1 and tunnel number 2 and showed you those. And then on the way back, I was trying to get to Portsmouth. I was taking all these back roads. I'll show you a picture of the car. I really had to clean it up today. And I stumbled upon Superior. And Superior was a huge cement plant on the DTNI. I'd never seen it before. I'd seen pictures, but I had no idea how big this place was. So after that, I just went on to Portsmouth, looked for some bricks, and headed home. So that's what the trip's going to be about. It's going to be a little bit longer. I narrated it while I was doing it. So I'm telling you in advance, if this type of stuff doesn't interest you, old railroad depots, old railroad buildings, it's maybe one of my videos you don't want to watch. I encourage everyone to watch them. I'm glad people enjoy them, but it is going to be a little bit longer video. So I'll get into the video now, and then I'll do a closing, sort of sum it up at the end. About 7:45 a.m. It's my first stop on my road trip. This is the B&O Depot at Midland City, Ohio. The track I'm standing on, still active, probably not today on a Sunday morning. Goes from Cincinnati to Columbus. The track on the right over here used to go to Chillicothe. It was the main line. Now it goes to Greenfield, and this is actually owned by the city of Greenfield because there's some industries, or at least one in Greenfield, still gets rail service. So line over here gets quite a bit of rail service. Line over here, maybe one train a week or something like that. Turn around behind me and you can see the junction there. This is all run by the Genessee and Wyoming. They're the parent company. I can't remember what they call this here in
what they call this particular branch. This depot is rumored to be torn down. You can see the roof. It's really, really bad. So don't think it's going to be here much longer. But it's an interesting building. So maybe the last time that I actually see it. All right, that's I'll go around the other end, shoot the other end of it so you can sort of see it. This is the other end of the building. Again, looking west now, so the way I'm walking toward that line, that's the line to Cincinnati that used to go to Chillicothe, Athens, Parkersburg, all that. Again, this depot is really, really bad. Hasn't been used in a long time, and probably not going to be here much longer. Still heading east to Chillicothe. Took a quick detour in Leesburg to show you the B&O depot there. Happily, this one is going to be saved. Looks pretty far gone, but the Leesburg Historical Society has gotten it, and they're trying to stabilize the building right now, and hopefully they can save it, restore it. Again, these tracks are not very active. I said maybe one train a week, something like that. So, but you can see they've done some work on it to try to stabilize it. And around behind me, if I look farther east, this is a really active customer on this line. I think it's called Candlelight. Get tank cars, and they make candles and stuff. So it's, Jawtooth actually has a really good video of them switching this facility. It's something I really like, since I like switching layouts, because there are 5 tank cars on the siding, and I think they showed up with 3, and they had to switch out 3 of the ones on there. They weren't all right in a row, so I had to do a lot of shuffling of cars. It took them a while. So it's a pretty cool video. I'll see if I can find the name of it and put it in the comments. Still heading east, Greenfield, Ohio now, and they actually have 2 depots that they saved and restored. This is the B&O depot. They've both been moved away from the tracks. So this is the B&O depot, and that is the Dtni Depot right there. So they're both really nicely restored and used. Actually, I'll walk back through here behind the B&O depot. Never been back here before, but I think that might be able to show you something kind of interesting, possibly. Okay, the big drop off down to Paint Creek behind the depots, and that bare spot down here is actually where the Dtni depot was, to the left of it a little bit. You can see the bridge across the creek. That's the old Dtni, still has tracks on it, and that's how the short line gets to the one customer left in Greenfield. They run down the B&O to a town where there used to be the interchange between the Dtni and the B&O, and then they switch back and run underneath the B&O to this track here, and it goes a couple miles to the customer and then dead ends. Again, that's the only thing keeping this line alive, and they're losing money like crazy. If it wasn't for the government grants to rehabilitate the track, there's no way that that one customer is enough to keep it in business down here. So we're still in Greenfield, sort of the industrial section of town. Greenfield's not a very big town, but if you look beside me here, this used to be a road crossing right here. This obviously was an industry that received rail service. I'm looking east toward Chillicothe. That's the old B&O ahead of me. If I zoom down, that's a fairly high bridge over Paint Creek. I'm not going to walk down to it because I'm running behind, stopping to show you guys all this stuff. But I love old industrial areas, old archaeology. things like this. So again, this used to be an industry with rail service. You can see the tracks in the road right there. Used to go somewhere over here. Again, there's only one business in Greenfield that receives rail service now, and that's on the old Dtni. So I'm going to head back, keep heading east. Next stop is Chillicothe. I'm in Chillicothe at the yard office. Pretty interesting day today. I'm not going to get close to the building. I've got some good pictures of the other side, and I know that the blocks are 15 inches long, so I can scale the building from that. This is the local parked here. It runs Monday through Friday. It goes out to the interchange with the C&O and the services meet paper, or what used to be made beat paper. It's Pixel now. What's interesting is there's a unit grain train ready to go out. So you see they've got the power parked there, and there's the train all lined up. So I'm assuming that Monday or Tuesday, whenever, they'll pull this train out. So they'll head east, the B&O, they'll cross the B&O bridge over the side of the river. Then they will go on a new connection they built back in the early 90s that goes up to the C&O Northern Subdivision, or CSX Northern Subdivision now, a place called Voss's. Used to be VA Junction, and that's where the CH&D tied in with the C&O, but the CH&D bridge was condemned and actually fell into the river in the 80s, so they had to build that new connection to get to the C&O. So due to union contracts, this B&O local, it's serviced by a couple guys here in Chillicothe. They work for CSX, and they work Monday through Friday, just doing that. And like I said, they just run over to the paper company, and then they will run out to the interchange. If I zoom in here between the trains, you can see the ball field backstops there. And if I pan around, walk over here a little bit, this is what used to be Miller Distribution on my layout. And go across the street, this is Douglas Avenue, and this is ITT Grinnell. And I don't know if you can see the tracks embedded in the rails there, or embedded in the pavement. You see it's starting to snow. I think I have enough information. I didn't have a picture of the other end of the building to model it. So now I think scaling with the concrete block size, I can do a reasonable job of modeling it. So now I'm going to head to Oak Hill. So I'm about to leave Chillicothe, looking west back down toward where we just were. You can see the end of the unit train there. I said that the CSX local only serves the paper company and runs out to the interchange. They also do very, very rarely give a couple cars to Union Spring. That's the only business on my layout that's still in business. And then they also probably assembled this grain train, I imagine. I would think that they would have assembled this. So I'm going to turn around here and look east. So straight ahead is the B&O main line to Athens, Ohio, Parkersburg, West Virginia, Washington, D.C. This off to the right is a connection with the old CH&D, which is that tree line over there. And you can actually see an embankment there that runs up over the CH&D. So now when they service the paper mill, they have to run out this connection, stop at the river because the bridge is gone, and then they push backwards on this line here to the paper mill. And you can't well, I'll pan around and you can probably see the smokestacks over there. That's where the paper mill is. So they've got a real long backing move, and that's why they keep the caboose. That same caboose has been here for over 30 years, since the 80s, and obviously needs a paint job. But they just use it as a pushing platform now, and to protect the crossings. Okay, so now I'm going to Oak Hill. Well, I took a detour to Jackson on the way to Oak Hill. This is the Dtni Depot, really in a rather sad state of affairs. It's really pretty old. I think it was built in the 1870s or something like that. Nothing has ever been able to sustain itself here. Tried antique shops, things like that. I'm amazed it's still sort of standing, and the roof on it looks pretty good. So hopefully it'll hang in there till somebody can get it. So of course the Dtni ran out that way. Dtni had their main shops here. So I'm going to pan around here. This was the engine servicing for the Dtni in Jackson. And you can see the sand tower is still there. Looking kind of rusty, but it's still there. This was a Dtni railroad building of some type, just a little storage building. But I've got a lot of pictures of engines sitting in this area, and it went that way. I'm looking actually west, so the Dtni this way would have gone to Waverly and then on to Washington Courthouse and Springfield, and they had a little yard right in here. The shops for the Dtni were on the other side of the road over there of the depot. If I can get a shot of those, I will. But I'm gonna keep driving toward Oak Hill. I'm gonna poke around Jackson for a little bit. Well, this is obviously the Dtni car shops. I'm going to drive slowly by it here. There's not much traffic on a Sunday morning. Grand Trunk Western used it briefly, but when they abandoned everything down here, they sold everything. It's pretty depressing now for Dtni fans. And this area back here was all full of cars, everything waiting to be repaired. They did all their painting here for all the freight cars and engines. So I'm at the other end of the car shops, right, and the building straight ahead of me in the center of the frame is the roundhouse. Of course, it was down to just a few stalls by the time they got done. I think that's where they did their painting toward the end of the time. It's still being used for something. I don't know what. I don't know about the car shops, but the roundhouse might be used. I think at one time it was like a body shop or something, but not sure. This is a relatively new industry over here. It does get rail service, I think, or it's going to start getting rail service. The Ohio South Central Railroad still runs through Jackson on the old B&O tracks. This is definitely worth stopping at. On my trip back to when I was chasing this line back in the 80s, I stopped here. This had a fresh coat of paint on. It was just white at the time, but it's been repainted. I believe this is the old C&O freight depot, and beside it is a really nicely painted caboose. Looks like they didn't really sort of free-handed the stencil there, but still, it's good to see any caboose preserved and nicely painted. So let me walk down and sort of show you around the tracks. Got some maintenance of way equipment here. They're sort of making this like a little historical village. They've got some buildings they're restoring. I'm not sure what they are yet. This is the first time I've been here since they've started that. And Jackson is famous for apples. Used to grow a lot of apples here. So they have an apple festival. So that water tank shaped like an apple is a Jackson landmark. All right, so I'm coming around. Again, these tracks are still in service. Ohio South Central. I'll walk around to the other end of the depot. I think there might be a sign on. So this is looking north. This would be on the unmodeled part of my railroad. When I pan around, this is looking south toward Oak Hill. So hopefully you don't mind the shakiness. I'll just walk and show you everything. Again, this looks much nicer than it did when I was here before. I don't think it had this concrete platform. They did run some excursion trains, like in conjunction with the Apple Festival. They would have some passenger trains at one time, but I think those are long gone. Here it is, Jackson, Ohio, GM and BO, CNO, Dtni, Wellston Jackson Belt Railway Company. I believe that was started as an interurban, and the Hocking Valley bought them, and the Hocking Valley was merged into the CNO. So I think that's what this depot was. And there's the sign, so this is called Salt Lick Village. It says, salt blowing was Ohio's first industry, and Jackson County's first post office was probably that building right there. Alright, I know I keep saying it, heading to Oak Hill. Okay, I'm in Oak Hill, standing in the middle of Oak Street, or Main Street. That's Route 93 right ahead of me. Don't have to get run over here where my car is parked at the side of the depot, or the two depots. This is the restaurant. These tracks have not seen a train in many, many years. Probably at least 10, if not a few more. Okay. So right now I'm looking south. Now I'm looking east up Main Street. And you can see there's a hill here, so that's going to help me plan my backdrop. I don't know what this building was in the past. This is Railroad Street. There's the post office, a couple other businesses there. Again, I'm probably going to flip this so the post office faces, the back of the post office is against the tracks for my railroad. And let's go ahead and do a complete 180. And this is the west side of Main Street, but that's not going to be modeled any. This was a restaurant when I was in business, or talking about modeling it. There's a lot of murals in Oak Hill. I don't know if they've got a local painter or not, but there's a lot of murals in Oak Hill. It's kind of nice. Matter of fact, I'll walk over here and you can sort of see one. There's sort of a gas station mural over there. This building sort of looks like it might have been a theater, but I'm not sure. Don't know if I modeled that or not. I would bet the farm that there used to be buildings here and now they're gone. So anyhow, this was one of the things I wanted to see. Again, some people do a really, really good job of making the roads like disappear into a backdrop. Don't know if I'm going to be able to do that or not, but at least now I've got an idea of what I'm up against. So real quick while I'm here, you can see the concrete platform edge. Again, it had a brick platform, but it had this concrete edge all the way down it. It ends down there around that big cedar tree, but probably the tree that you're seeing right in front of you was probably about where the freight house was. So there are no trees obvious in the pictures, and there's no foundation at all left that I can reference. I'm going to zoom down in here, and if you see the West Banco sign, the building just past that was the headquarters for Davis Fire Brick. I'm not going to be able to model the headquarters, but the building to the right of that, you can just barely see through the trees, is the machine shop of Davis Fire Brick. So we're going to go down there and take some pictures of that. Okay, this is looking up Maple Avenue, looking east. This is Davis Fire Brick. One time a Spur went in here, back into there, but by the time I'm modeling, The only spur was along this loading dock. This brick building on the end is the machine shop. Really interesting because the windows have been changed on it. I don't know if it's been completely rebuilt, but if you look at older pictures, it had like 8 windows, and this wall went all the way out to the edge. It didn't have this little loading dock. Another thing really interesting about this loading dock is there's no way to get from the inside of the building to the loading dock. Now that addition on the end is, recent. That was put on, probably after the thing closed. So you can see it's got a chain link gate there or whatever. So I guess if you need to get from the machine shop to here, you had to like go around the wall and come out. Not sure exactly how that worked. I'm going to model it like this, I believe. I can't remember if I'll have to see what the pictures look like in the 80s. I think this is the way it was in the 80s. This brick dock, it goes all the way down through there. Had a spur there and covered loading dock with some of the pictures I've seen. This is obviously, it would hold probably about 7 or 8 boxcars. Never had that many there, but it would hold that many. So the advantages of coming on a Sunday is it's closed. So this is obviously Cedar Heights clay. You can see where the sign used to be painted. That Resco Products was not there when I was here before. I'm not going to be able to model all this. I would love to be able to model this facade. I can probably get 2 of them. Don't know if I can get all 3. We'll see. I'm going to walk up here where the semi-trailer was. This is where the tracks came into the company. So you see there's a loading dock here, dock 3. You can actually see a track right there. So they had these doors they could park a boxcar at and load there. I'm not going to walk back in there. I don't want to get arrested for trespassing. But they also could load covered hoppers. You see back in there, you can see some spouts. I'm not going to be able to model this because I won't be able to uncouple cars. So what I'm thinking about doing in my model of Cedar Heights is to leave off this building completely right here and have this awning, which you can see that angled awning, have it either have holes in it where I can reach down with my uncoupling pick, or make it removable. Probably easier to have holes in it. They had several places where they could load boxcars. Again, this bridge wasn't there because railroad cars went through there. This is after rail service ended. That was obviously a place to load boxcar. And there's a couple more of them up through there. So I will have several car spots at Cedar Heights Clay. This is the railroad heading south. Obviously no trains, been here in a long time. That's Cedar Heights Clay, Route 93, it's right there. I'm going to pan around this way. This is the scrapyard I'm modeling. And here's the scrapyard spur. Now if you look at the loading dock, the underneath part of that is concrete. This was a brick plant at one time. Went out of business before obviously the Davis fire brick did, and tore it all down and utilized it for a scrapyard. This siding is the best piece of rail on the whole thing because they rehabbed it in about maybe 2006, 2007. Just shipped a few cars and never did anything else. And so you can tell Oak Hill hasn't had a train in it for a long time. But I'm going to have to model that concrete sort of loading dock with the metal fence on top of it, and then a bunch of piles of scrap up there. And they just used like a big crane to drop the scrap down into gondolas. Since I was in the neighborhood, I drove down south of Oak Hill. This is an old Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton tunnel. This was abandoned, I think, around 1916. If I can get down to it, I think you can see all the way through it. It's not that long of a tunnel. Of course, it's full of water, I'm sure. I'm going to try to get down to it, see if I can get a shot through it. Well, I made it down. A little bit dirty. Good thing that I've got all my stuff done in Oak Hill. I'm not going to be going inside any place. Just inside the tunnel. You see the craftsmanship. You see how thick this thing was. It's really cool. No date on it that I can see. But anyhow, hope you enjoyed it. That way, maybe a little bit over half a mile or so, is the other tunnel we were just at. It's the other end, the end I didn't show you. I didn't want to walk up the ridge and back down again. I had a heck of a time getting back up out of there. But this is the right way. As I swivel around, here's tunnel number 2. Now this tunnel is completely collapsed at the other end. You can barely see where the portal was. I'm not going to walk over there. Again, I'd have to go up on the ridge, come back down. But not sure how long this tunnel was. Well, like I said, you can't get through it. And when you get up closer to it, you're going to see it's got a bunch of water in it, like most tunnels do after the railroads abandoned them. So it's been abandoned over 100 years. It's a really cool plaque on the inside of this, but I can't get to an angle so I can read it. You can see it's sort of stamped in there. I think that's when they built it. Has the, probably the head engineer and that type of stuff on it. Might be able to find it online. This one is concrete lined, obviously. The other one was brick lined. This one was a whole lot easier to get down. Actually, I had a little trail. I bushwhacked the other one, and coming back out of it was really, really tough. Handhold to handhold. I got pretty muddy. All right, so that is the end of my Oak Hill railroad adventure, but I am going to go down to Portsmouth and look for bricks on the way home. And it is right next to the Norfolk Southern rail yards. So if I see anything there worth shooting, I'll shoot it. Well, I'd heard of this place, but I'd never been here before. This is called Superior. I believe it was a cement plant served by the Dtni on their Ironton branch. So now I'm getting close to where some railroad tracks used to be anyhow, but I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's a pretty cool place. Here's some more of it. Again, I'd like to see this in operation. I knew I was on Superior Road, so I was sort of expecting to see something, but I had no idea it was this big of a place. Again, the Dtni served it on their branch, but their branch ended in 1982, I believe, so no trace of any tracks, obviously. Like the farther I get, the cooler it gets. As you can see by patches of snow, it's not a really warm day here in southern Ohio. It's been snowing on and off, raining on and off, but I'm definitely glad I did it. Okay, I pulled over. So here are the two buildings that I filmed already. Here's a big smokestack. And on the opposite side of the road, there's this thing. So I'm not exactly sure how all this ties together. I'll have to get some of my railroad buddies to clue me in. Almost looks like a coaling tower for the railroad, but I know it's not. They didn't have one down here. So if I can figure it out, I'll let you know. Well, here's the car. Driving home in the snow, rain, sleet, whatever, got a lot of the mud off of it, so it's not as bad as I thought. This is a typical Kentucky weather. We don't get a lot of snow. 1994, we had 18 inches at one time, shut the whole state down. 2015, I think we had about 11 inches at one time, but typically we just get rain changing to snow and we'll get an inch or two and it'll be gone pretty quick. So I need to clean this off. My wife said that she has to go somewhere in a little bit, so I need to get my stuff out of the front, and let's see if this hatch is frozen. No, it works. That might be frozen shut. So I'm going to show you my brick haul here before I clean it up. I said I've got 4 in this bag here, and then I've got a bunch more in here that I need to clean up today and get out of here. So that's it. That's the end of my adventure. Question, comments, always welcome. If you like seeing stuff like this, I mean, I love doing this kind of stuff. I love old railroad buildings, archaeology type stuff, abandoned railroad lines. So again, everybody, stay safe.